Okay, so I think in my binge watching these Insidious movies, we're on chapter 3 by the way, I'm starting to lose my sanity. Because I sat down here to get ready to film, right? As I sat down, I swear to God there was something crawling on the side of the table, but I was like crawling next to the table. But I went like this and there was nothing there. It was like a dog or something crawling. I don't know. Maybe I was just thinking back to when I was at my folks' house and recording stuff, and the dog would be walking around. I don't know. It's just really weird. But Insidious Chapter 3 is the third chapter in this currently 4-film franchise. It is a prequel to the first two, and is no longer directed by James Wan, but is now directed by his friend, partner, and co-writer Lee Winnell. There are a few things about this film when it was, starting to make the rounds, and when it was going to come out, like, excuse me, what's his name? Patrick Wilson stated that the Lambert family, why my memory so weird? The Lambert family had gone through enough and they were done, so they were gone. It was also stated that Specs and Tucker would not be in this film. Well, that was wrong because they're in this film. Maybe they wanted it to be a prequel to before they were around, but they decided to add them in there anyway. Because Lumina was like, okay, I'm here, let's do it, But this tells the story of Quinn Brenner, takes place a few years before the events of the first film, the first two films, I should say, because they take place concurrently, one after another, and follows a girl named Quinn who wants to talk to her dead mother, so she goes to Elise. But Elise has not been using her gift after the suicide of her husband. And she tried to contact him, but she came in contact with the bride in black, the black bride, the, Parker Crane, whatever you want to call it. Come on, man. I'm not even tired. Yeah. I don't like yelling on camera, but you do what you gotta do, right? Right. So, yeah. So first and foremost, I gotta continue the story here. And after this, Quinn tries to make contact with the spirit, but it's an evil spirit, and it tries to take her over, and stuff happens, and yeah. So first and foremost, I want to point out the acting in this. The acting from Lin Shaye is fantastic, as well as, for the most part, Dermot Mulroney. I say for the most part because at the beginning of this, he comes off as a bit of an asshole. I know he's supposed to be portraying a father who's dealing with the death of his wife and then trying to, wrangle his kids. The problem is, to me, he comes off as an asshole because he's like, well, I can't do this. There's so much. Dude, you got 2 kids. They're both over the age of 10. I'm assuming that the youngest one is over the age of 10. And he's just like, oh, I need you to do this and this and this. I'm like, you're not, like, what I'm seeing here is not, I need you to help me. It's, I need you to do this for me. It comes down to, like, he even has her do the grocery shopping and then complains when it's not what he wants. Because she's a vegetarian. He doesn't know that for some reason. Yeah, it's just, at the beginning of this, he comes off as an asshole. Like, you have to do everything because I can't do it. But she wants to be an actress, of course. And after she goes to Elise, she's going back to her own life, but she makes contact with something that she thinks is the spirit of her mother, but it's not. It's the man who doesn't breathe, as they call this spirit demon thing in this one, which is a very, very spooky kind of spirit. I really like the spirit. I really like this creature in this. I'm sorry if I'm yawning. I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to keep going, and I'm yawning. This happens all the time. You see my videos. Sometimes this happens. I'm sitting here watching the movie, right? Not one yawn. As soon as I start filming, I can't stop yawning. I don't even feel that tired. But anyway, so we get some... I lost it. So, there's a couple things in here that I don't particularly care for. And the first one is... So, they decided that we have to keep the story very similar to the first two. It has to be someone's being taken over by a ghostly demon-like entity. But she can't astral project. So we gotta figure out a way to get in there, right? She gets hit by a fucking car. And so she's like half alive, half dead, like in limbo. She's in the further. And that's how it grabs a hold of her. But, like, did you really need to do that? Because my point is, she already made contact with it. It was the reason why she got hit by the cars. It was already following her. It was already somewhat attached to her. They say it attached itself to her after the accident. Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, it's just really weird. Also, there's a couple characters that just disappear after a certain point in the film. Like, there's the best friend who was there when the car accident happened. And after the car accident, aside from a scene where she's on a laptop, we don't see her again. And then there's the next door neighbor who's supposed to be the love interest. But again, after a really cool scene where she's like knocking on the wall and she thinks it's him, and she's like, "Did I wake you up?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm at my grandma's right now." So she's really creeped out. A decent scene. We don't see him again, which is really weird. And I think maybe this is where there could have been an original script. Like, what if they were in it and they wrote them out to put Tucker and Specs back in? Because they said, we could put them in. That's fine. We should get rid of these characters because they're just gone after a certain point in time. They're not even mentioned at a certain point. So my eyes watering. Oof. Hate that. But, yeah. But there's a lot of... Something I noticed with this film watching it this time is... Like, there's jump scares. It's not bad jump scares, but towards the middle of the film, it gets very repetitive. Like, there's a lot of repeating where it's really quiet. And then, bam, jump scare, and a noise and stuff. And then, really quiet. And bam, jump scare, and noise. It's really... Like, they do this same thing over and over again where she gets teleported upstairs. Like, there's one where she wakes up on the floor in one of the room, I think it is. And then there's one she wakes up in the room above her. And there's one where she wakes up in the hallway, and the guy comes up behind her, pushes her into the room. I think that's what it was. But it's really weird. Like it's almost like Paranormal Activity, which is weird because Oren Peli produced this, where like every night something has to happen, and it's just kind of repetitive there for a while. But then the little brother gets the idea to bring in these because at least after they start to realize things are happening. The dad, Dermot Mulroney's character, he goes to talk to Elise, and Elise explains why she can't help. And I think this is another thing that just is unnecessary, because it makes no sense. She explains that after her husband died, she tried to go into the further to make contact with him. Also, How she goes into the further in this makes no sense. In the first one, she needed that gas mask thing, right? To talk to the spirits, to do something. Now all of a sudden, you could just go in there. She also says she's never been in the further before this. But I haven't really watched it yet, but if I remember correctly, in the fourth one, when she's a kid, she goes into the further, right? I mean, you can forget that. I mean, she is in her 50s here, or early 60s by this point, because she's supposed to be younger than she was in it. But I don't know. But she says that she went out upon her husband, and she was attacked by the bride in black, Parker Crane, whatever you want to call it, who told her that she is going to kill her. He, we already know it's a he. It's going to kill her. And so now every time she goes in there, Parker's going to kill her. This means that she knew about the bride. Like, she already knew because of Josh back in the 80s, but this leads to believe she knew she was going to die by the bride's hand, which is not true. Because the end of the first film, she's caught by surprise. She takes the picture and she's shown that it's the bride, but she's in shock that it's the bride. And she's in shock when she's grabbed. If she knew, she even says in here that when it's your time, and she'll have to accept that. If that was the case, she wouldn't have been, she wouldn't have been caught off guard. She wouldn't have been scared. She would be like, well, if this is it, then this is it. Her knowing that she's going to die by the bride's hands makes no sense. I know it's a little wink nod to the audience showing, hey, look, we're setting this up. We're setting up what you already know is going to happen, but it makes no sense. That also takes away zero tension from the scenes where she's attacked in this. I said this before with prequels. When you know a character's not going to die till a certain point, you need to try to build tension with the character. There are a couple times where she's grabbed by the bride, and you're like, because you know there's no tension. There's no tension. The music's going, she's having problems, but there's no tension because you know she's not going to die there. You know she's not going to die, especially if you're watching this knowing there's another one after this. You know she's not going to die. So there's no tension at all there. And this is where the movie starts to go down a little bit for me, as it goes from this really cool, scary type film, which is still really good toward the end, but it becomes sort of a cliche, sentimental thing at the end. Like, it kind of reminds me of Casper, sort of. So I get itch. So, she explains that there are two types of evil beings, I guess. One that wants to take your soul, take over your body, like the ones that were going after Dalton in the first one, and Josh in the second one. Or ones that just want to collect your soul. So apparently this ghost ghoul, the man who can't breathe, is collecting souls by forcing them to kill themselves. We already show one who's like constantly being rained on, and then he wants Quinn. And I thought this was going to lead into that it was the spirit ghost thing. It was the man who can't breathe that made her husband kill himself. I remember thinking, oh, it's going to tie in. It was the ghost. And when she walks in there and she sees him sitting there, I'm like, yes, he's going to say it was the same thing that's going after Quinn. But no, it turns into this whole thing, which another thing that doesn't work for me. So she sits there talking to who she believes is the ghost of her husband, Jack. But here's the thing. Right away, other than, the hint that he gives her about telling her to kill herself, even before that, because she figures it out. He's like, "Oh, you need to do this yourself, and you can join me." She said, "Oh, my husband, my Jack, would never ask me to do that." But even before that, she should have known, because when she walks in and she sees him sitting there facing the other way, she's attacked by the bride in black, by Parker Crane. If that was her husband, the spirit of her husband, he would have tried to help her. Don't you think? The fact that he just sits there the entire time shows you it wasn't him. But I caught that this time. Like, wait a minute. That's a dead giveaway. If it was her husband, he would have helped her. Why didn't she catch it? She's supposed to be smart. She figures out that it's not him from my husband would never make me do that. But yeah. Then again, the ending. She tries to get Quinn out of there, but the spirit's too strong. It's really cool, though. He stomps his foot and everything goes flying forward. She stomps her foot and he falls through the thing. But he's able to grab onto Quinn before they're able to jump back into their bodies. And so they're all coming together, and Specs and Tucker, because Specs and Tucker show up, I forgot to mention that, and they're fakes, right? But then Elise shows up to help, and they work together. Because it was the little brother's idea to bring them in, but they're fakes, they're frauds, they have never seen a ghost in their entire life. Like most, I'm just saying, like most ghost hunting TV shows, sorry to say, but they're all fake. Sorry. It's reality. Okay. But, I guess we just up because AEW is on, I'm missing it. But, where was I? But yes, she can't get back. So, she starts hearing a voice of Grace, the lady who passed away the older lady who passed away a couple days earlier, telling her something about a book. And she finds Quinn's journal, and inside the journal is a letter from Quinn's mom that she's supposed to read when she graduates. And she's trying to get her to find it early. I'm going to call bullshit on this. It's been in her diary since before her mom passed away, right? She's shown holding the diary a few times during this film, right? Clutching it. Obviously, she uses the diary. She would have seen that before. She would have seen this note. I'm sorry, you're looking through stuff. You're going to find it. I'm sorry, but she would have found it. It makes no sense if she never found it before now. But at least rips it off, and she uses it as sort of a way for the mother to hold on. And she calls the mother, "Lily, help your daughter." And she shows up, and she gives her the strength. She whispers something in her ear. She gives her the strength to conquer the guy. And all you have to do is just yank the mask off, and he coughs up dust, and he's dead. And then they're all back to normal. And then we end with, them thanking them, and she says, "Oh, your mother's always going to be with you, even though you never see her, blah, blah, blah." And then they go to leave. She's like, "You know what? I think we should work together, But you boys should wear some nicer clothes." Old lady talks. And then we cut to her getting ready to go to bed, and it's a jump scare thing. There was some jump scares in this. I also want to address something after I get done here. But at this point, she's getting ready to go to bed, and she's looking for her husband's vest, and it's on the bed, and she believes that it was her husband that put it there. I still think it was. Other people say, "Oh, it's the lipstick-faced demon or the long-haired fiend that put it there." No, I think her husband put it there because, think about this. She was looking in the closet, right? And she's like, "Oh, where did I?" And then she sees it there. And then we see the dog go over to the closet and start barking, where we see the long-haired fiend. And then the lipstick-faced demon pops from behind her, right? I think Jack put it there because he knew that the long-haired fiend was in the closet. In the closet. And so to protect her. I don't know. It's a weird thing, but I just don't think they would. I don't know. But this goes fucking nowhere, much like the cliffhanger from the end of the second one. Because in the next one, we completely ignore this to do other stuff. But, yeah. Something I want to clear up. I forgot to mention. Couple things. One, I was wrong. Carl is in this. She goes to Carl to talk to him. And I guess they can justify what Carl says in the second one because it was a few years, I guess. Because he's not, I clearly know he's not in the fourth one. So I'm assuming this was just the last time he talked to her before the second film happened, I guess. So he is in this. I was wrong. And the second one, I forgot to talk about the part where Josh goes back in time. Because I mentioned something in the first one. He's the one that bangs on the door, makes the alarm go off, and then the door bursts open. It's him and the further going back in time. I forgot to mention that. I think that's it. But I just wanted to mention that. But yeah, this doesn't continue the end of the second one, but it's still pretty good. I'm actually going to give this a 9 out of 10. I think it's better than the second one. I think it's on par with the first one. I'm not sure if it's better than the first one, but it's definitely better than the second one. But, yeah, the acting looks pretty good. Except for don't remember at the beginning. But, yeah, this is all pretty good. Yeah, we got one left, all right? So, what are your thoughts on Insidious Chapter 3? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'm Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.